What is happening, everybody? I think this thing's working. Hopefully I got enough bandwidth. These storms keep blowing through here are pissing off my internet. My internet already sucks. But yet I'm still dealing with shitty internet because the storm's been blowing through and basically blowing down everything that's over 20 feet tall. So at any rate, figured I would jump in here. I'm not going to be able to do another Mopar live probably for a little bit. I'm going to be going out of town, so figured I would hang out with you guys on this Friday night. We're waiting for the storm to start blowing back through, beautiful Houston, Texas. Did kind of a short Mopar chat on Wednesday. Figured we kind of pick up where we left off on that one. But, one of the things that I wanted to ask you guys is, how often are you taking your car to the drag strip during the summertime? I'm just curious. There's quite a few guys that don't even bother running their car down the drag strip during the summertime. It's funny. It's actually one of the best times to get seat time leading into the fall racing series, or season, I should say. And that's kind of the direction I'm going to be going with my car. It's going to remain more or less street oriented. I'm going to actually try to drive the thing, have a little bit of fun with the thing. But I'm still going to be taking it to the drag strip when I can. So, that's at least the plan so far. Let's see. Before I get going into this, Black and White Charlie, what struts do you recommend for a 5.7 Challenger? I've been looking into Bilsteins. They're perfect. Bilsteins are badass struts. Stock's great, but Bilsteins are good too. The valving in Bilsteins is a little bit more aggressive than stock. Just know that going into it. So, but yeah, Bilstein's actually a really good shot. Strut. They make great products all the way around. Natalie's chiming in on my question, saying very, very little indeed. I did Thursday and plus 2,500 foot and still ran 7.2s and little scat packs. Really good for that car. Especially in those conditions. Yeah, I don't know. It's not that I'm having a hard time justifying taking the car to the drag strip. The only thing with me is, really, finding other things to do with the car. There's a lot of other stuff I'd like to do with the car. It doesn't have anything to do with going to the drag strip. I would like to get the thing on a road trip at some point this summer. Just get the thing out, let it stretch its legs a little bit. I would like to do a little bit of maybe autocross with it. That's something that I used to love to do. I just haven't really had a chance to get around to doing it. So we'll see about that. Not to mention projects around the house. That's the other thing. Just finding the time to, get the car ready, get the car to the drag strip and all that doesn't sound like a big deal. And honestly, it's not. Once I get the tires on the car, it's pretty much ready to go. And to be honest, during the fall and spring and winter, the car basically lives on the drag pack, which is pretty true of any car I've ever had when I have owned a drag pack to go along with it. But this summer I'm going to be doing a lot of work around the house. Got a few projects I'm going to be working on, so that's really going to be more my focus than trying to get seat time in the car. One thing I can say is that track prep has been really good though at Houston Raceway Park, so kudos to them. Powered by Pennzoil, though, I got to say that, right? But kudos to Austin and the crew over there for keeping that track nice and tacky, because that thing's come a long way, and there's nothing in the world worse. And this is kind of a little bit to the point too. There's nothing worse than taking your car to the drag strip with lousy track prep. It is so unimaginably frustrating to get to the drag strip, wait however long you're going to end up waiting, either due to the line being long at the staging lane or just letting the car cool down in general. There's nothing worse than getting your car in the staging lane, getting it to the line, doing your burnout, trying to launch the car, and you spin and you just guff the launch, and you got to turn back around and go through the whole thing again. Has not been the case at Houston Raceway Park lately, but it used to be. That track would go away so quickly. In fact, it was almost a joke. It got to the point where people just were, in Houston anyway, there was really nowhere to go where you would have decent track prep. Now with the good track prep, you're seeing a lot of guys actually coming off the street and running down the drag strip where they should be to begin with. So, and I know that can be a bit hypocritical coming from me, but then again, my street racing days have been over for a while. So I think I'm far enough removed from that to at least be able to say those, give that advice. Let's see. Dave is asking, good evening, what are your thoughts on running 310 upper with a 10% lower on pump 94? Well, if you got 94, that's not bad. But I still would err on the side of caution, man. It depends on what the elevation is that you're going to be living with this car. If you are anywhere near sea level, I would probably caution a little bit against it, although a 285 I think is about, the 285 with the stock lower I think is about the same as a 310 upper with a 10% lower in terms of just boost gain. I think you're still going to gain 3 either way. I think that's going to be your limit, so limit it to that and I think you'll be just fine. Do not go 295, 85, 75. None of those pulley ratios are going to work well long term with regular 93, 94 octane pump gasoline. It's just there are limitations to what the gasoline can manage, especially with the weight of these vehicles. That's really more the issue that you're going to run into, is just making something that weighs this heavy, that's making that much power, work well on the street with the knock threshold that gasoline is going to give you. So personal advice, there are plenty of tuners that will disagree with that. I can tell you this, none of those tuners have had a car blow up though with just a 10% lower or with just a 285 upper. It's really rare. I mean, you'd have to have an unbelievably aggressive tune at sea level to get that to happen. And well, let me not say unbelievably aggressive. You would have to have a very aggressive tune at sea level to start running into any problems with those types of setups. And the car will be faster. I mean, again, that is, those types of pulley ratios are really more what I would call a density altitude correction setup. In other words, you're basically adding the power to the car in lousy weather that it would have during really good DA days. And so you're not really going to hurt it. Again, if you live at lower altitudes and you're going to be dealing with negative DAs, that's when I would be a little bit more cautious. They don't call it more Parmageddon every year for nothing. So let's see. Symphonic says, after taking my car to the shop, they couldn't find anything wrong with the electrical system, but they did find a small misfire in cylinder number 8. So they recommend a new spark plug since they haven't been changed in 11 years. Hopefully that'll fix it. It might. Just keep in mind that Mopars, and if you've got a Hellcat, this applies even more so. But the Mopars will almost always show some misfire on number 8. Or a random misfire here and there. It's false. They're not misfiring. I don't know why the counter freaks out, but they do, in fact, show a false knock, or false knock too, but a false misfire. So, yeah, I've lived through that. I had one Hellcat. I thought I blew the thing up on the dyno one night, but that wasn't the case. It was actually just the misfire counter going apeshit. This one will go nuts on a data log, by the way. Actually kind of funny. Dr. Div saying, B-Max, what up, brother? What up, Doc? Curtis M saying, Flowmaster, of course, a 275 catback system with already Cook's long tubes on a 6.4. You're going to want to go Corsa on that. Do not put a Flowmaster full exhaust on that car. Take that a step farther, I would not recommend chambered mufflers. If you've got an X-pipe, if you've got chambered mufflers, needs to have an H-pipe. Symphonic saying, oh, the misfire in a C6, yeah, I can't really speak to that. I haven't heard of those showing any weird misfires, but new plugs will probably fix that. If they haven't been changed out in a while, definitely time to get on that. So But anyway, one of the things that I was going to talk about. Oh, wait a minute. So finally saying, I thought it was something electrical system shorting out that was randomly throwing me the codes and then put him to limp mode, but they didn't find anything wrong. Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's the problem with stuff like that. And again, I can't remember everything that we've talked about, but in that case, yeah, typically it's something, electrical issues are a major problem, especially when you've got wires that are just slightly chafed. Slight issues with wiring cause major problems. So sourcing those issues can be a nightmare. It's just one of those things where, it could be in a harness, it could be a bad plug wire, it could be a bad plug. An intermittent issue with a coil pack. I mean, it could be any number of things could possibly fire that. It could be a funky injector that's causing it. So many things to go over, and unfortunately, diagnosing those so many things take a considerable amount of time. So, again, something to consider, something to think about is, just the amount of time that it's going to take to go in there and fix it. But if they're going to go this route, then, at least you're well on your way to getting a tune-up, right? Now they're saying, well, long tubes pick up that much over the catless pipes that I run now. Is yours a 5.7 or a 6.4? I think yours is 5.7, isn't it? Hang on a second. Gotta be. Oh, wait. No. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. Long tubes, unless you've got a 5.7, long tubes don't pick up anything on a dyno that you're going to see, and they really don't pick up anything in the track. However, they do pick up a little bit of partial throttle torque on the NA cars. They don't really do much for the Hellcats. A little bit, but it's almost like a dyno anomaly, or a dyno variance, I should say. It's within the noise, if that makes any sense. Look, I'll put it to you like this. On a car, these are two different Hellcats, one Charger, one Challenger. Challenger had long tubes. Charger had the stock manifolds with cat delete. And between the two cars, there was no difference in power between one having long tubes and one having just the cat delete. The long tube car did not have catalytic converters either, by the way. But it's a stock camshaft and also a boosted application, so you got to have to be a little bit careful with that. But long tubes, not really, at least not so far as I've seen anyway. Let's see, Shawnee, is saying basically I was saying long tubes pick up a little torque and a little bit of horsepower, but they don't shine until you get an aftermarket cam. That's absolutely true, and even more so for NA guys. With the supercharger, you are force feeding the cylinder with boost. It's not sucking the air in, you're actually forcing the air in. And because of that, you're going to get some bleed over where the camshaft lobe separation angle, where you get that overlap. So you're not really relying on long tubes to evacuate the cylinder and to get those exhaust pulses out, so to speak, because you have pressure still going into the cylinder when that exhaust valve is open because it's under boost. So you don't get the same benefit with long tubes. You will, in many cases, lose a little bit of boost, mainly because if the long tubes are set up properly, if you get the right long tubes, you will evacuate the cylinder better, but that better evacuation of the cylinder drops cylinder pressure, which is kind of the whole idea of having boost to begin with. It's a little counterintuitive. Now, some guys will say, well, the car will run better and it's going to make a better number on the dyno, but it's just not making the same amount of boost, which would hint that it's more efficient. Don't get caught up in that argument. That's taken into account a couple of assumptions that may not necessarily work well. It's a great hypothesis, but I can tell you that anytime any car I've ever driven dropped boost, made less power, it just didn't run as good. So take it with a grain of salt, and also you don't need to throw money at a car just for the sake of throwing money at it. That's not going to, money doesn't mean power. You have to have a properly set up combination. All those products have to work in concert for that combination to work well. Oh, Phoenix is saying Sophonics could try moving coil to another cylinder and see if it moves. I would have assumed that they would have done that at the shop, but I guess it, not everything goes without saying. But yeah, moving the coil around is the tried and true method of trying to locate or isolate a misfire. It's the first thing you do, but I would assume they would have already tried that and were still running into problems with it. Teaches me to assume. Oh, Nellie's saying a 6.4. Yeah, don't worry about long tubes on that car. Unless you get a cam. I mean, it's just not worth it. There's some shorties that are out. I think JBA just released or is soon to release a set of shorty headers. They're 1 7/8 that might work well. I know the BBKs actually worked well on the 6.4, but man, you got to really justify the price of those things. It does sound a little bit different with the shorties, I do have to admit. So again, something to think about. But in terms of long tubes and what kind of power gains you're going to get and all that, you got to remember that with a stock camshaft, your lobe separation angle is wide, so there just isn't the amount of scavenging that you're going to have to take advantage of a long tube header. And if you don't have the scavenging to take advantage of, you're trying to push an exhaust pulse through piping that's that long, right? The piping itself becomes a restriction at some point. So you just have to remember that the way that the stock system is designed is actually pretty freaking good. So just keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at the claims. And that's one other thing. It's funny. The manufacturers of some of these long tubes are saying, well, you'll pick up 22 horsepower at the rear wheels, and it sounds like something's pretty legit about the statement. But how much of that came from just the tune itself? Because you're going to have to tune it if you put long tubes on it. How much of the power gain came from just the tune? And if you look at what tuned cars pick up with a cad delete versus long tubes in a tune, they're god-awful close. In fact, in some cases, the stock setup will make a little bit more power at the very end of that power curve. It tells you what's going on inside that engine. You're just not evacuating the cylinder properly at the big end of the pull, where the shorty's dumping into that large, basically it's a 3-inch collector that they dump into. You just get this huge dump of exhaust pressure into that collector, which helps to scavenge it, and the pulse is only at the most this long, so it helps to evacuate the cylinder much more quickly with that wide lobe separation angle. It's actually a pretty well designed unit, and it's one of these situations where you build enough engines and you see enough dyno time. It's weird. Sometimes long tubes work great. If the car's got a cam, you'll see this big gain. If not, you just don't see it, and that's across the board. Symphonic saying, yeah, I definitely needed to tune up some spark plugs after 11 years. Oh, Sean, he's saying that he picked up a handful of horsepower. A little bit on the seat of the pants. Again, where I like the long tubes, and again, I'm not going to talk anybody out of them. I just want you to know what you're up against before you start shelling out the kind of coin that it's going to take to get those long tubes in your car, spending the time and everything else. First things first, you've got to remember that it's really partial throttle that you're going to get your gains from, and again, just don't. In that part of the equation is important. The partial throttle, the normal drivability, you're just cruising around town. That initial tip in, that initial torque hit means that it's going to be a little bit more fun to drive. But God, just don't expect it to change the world for you, because it probably might disappoint you in that respect. Oh wait, hang on a second, time out. Sean E, man, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Saying scat pack and full drag pack mode now for racing in the morning. Only the 8th mile track is open near me. First time at 8th mile. Any tips? Yeah, definitely got some tips for you. Well, first of all, solid burnout's going to get you where you need to be. Let the car cool off leading up to getting the thing through through the traps, into the staging lanes. Make sure you keep the car as cool as you can. When you make the hit, I'm pretty dead set on about a 1500 to 1700 RPM launch, and just roll into the throttle real quick. And I mean, that's about it. I mean, I don't really know of any other tips to give you aside from again, keeping it cool. Do everything you can to get that thing as cool as you can before you make the hit, but not too cool. You want your oil temperature to be around between 165 and 185 degrees, maybe 190 at the most, and coolant temperature in the same ballpark as well. And take everything out of the car that you can. I think you already have done that. And one other tip, major tip: don't run it any less than a third of a tank when you get to the drag strip, and don't let it drop below a quarter of a tank while you're there. A lot of guys try to cheat that weight down, and if you're hooking up hard, what you can run into is you can run into a situation where you have fuel starvation on the hit, or you'll have fuel starvation sometimes around the 2-3 shift if you're trying to run the thing real shy on fuel to try to save weight. It's one of those situations where you're not saving enough weight to really help you too much. So those would be my tips for you. Just get out there and have some fun with it. Let's see. Mopar call is saying, "Evening, Brian." Good evening to you. Let's see. The OEM ceramic coating for my wide body scat pack is complete. Picking up the car tomorrow. Can't wait to see and share my performance feedback with you, brother. I like it. Let us know. Oh, now it's saying trying to get a little more power for the track, pair the long tubes with a ported intake. Honestly, man, it's funny. The ported intake is not really the determining factor on whether or not long tubes will benefit you, but they're not going to hurt you either, at all. It's just one of those things where, ported intake, true 84 millimeter Fastman ported throttle body, and a set of long tubes. The long tubes will help you get out of the hole a little bit easier. Again, it'll make the car a little bit more lively, but the intake and the throttle body will get you more than the long tubes will in that respect. See, LS swap everything. I like it. Say, came here for your video on the GTO, and now you're talking about forced induction. I'm thinking about forced induction. Can't make up my mind between LSA or a Pro Charger. Man, oh, here we go. Shawnee saying, got to be careful of cams. If you daily your car, you'll lose low end power. Well, you can. The idea is with, well, let's talk LS for a minute. So it depends on what you're going to be doing with the car and how much upside you want for the car later on. If you want to go with something like, like a D1X, D1X gives you a lot of overhead. It gives you a lot of room to grow with that particular package, and you'll see them out at the track running, high 9s, low 10s pretty regularly. But it's not as clean of an install, and that to some people is important for sure. I got to tell you, the LSA setup, it kind of ticks a lot of boxes right off the bat. Number one, it makes it a lot more fun, in my opinion, to drive on the street. And number two, it's such a clean install. So, it just depends really on what you're going to be doing with the car. If you like doing a lot of roll racing, the Pro Charger is going to be right up your alley. If you're more street and strip, and you would like a supercharger that's got plenty of upside. I mean, that LSA kit will get you pretty freaking far in terms of power production overall. But the only downside, I'll say this, the only downside of the LSA is that it can be tough on transmission and rear end parts, especially if you take it to the drag strip a lot. So, you know, that initial torque hit down low, man, it's kind of hard on everything. So again, just something to consider. But you know what, man, I've never seen a slow centrifugally supercharged LS. So I say either way you go is good. It just depends on what your goals are. Let's see. Oh, Shawnee's saying, not a daily driver. Has a cam. For me, will not hurt too bad, and low end will help utilize my long tube headers. Relatively mild. Yeah. So, you know, if you're going to go with, you know, obviously you're going to be going with a cam. The Hemis are a little bit different cat than the LS or any of the other wedge heads. You got to be real careful with cam specs on a Hemi just because of how airflow moves through a Hemi. You can't be too aggressive with it. It's not like an LS where you can just throw all the cam at it and the things just keep picking up power and you can spin those things to whatever RPM you want. Unfortunately, you just don't have that luxury in this situation. So I think you'll be in good shape with the long tubes at that point. Let's see. Oh, TU's in the house. What up, TU? Say, man, I just saw the 2020 Shelby GT500 in Grabber Lime Green on Stangmo's channel. It looks really good. I hope Ford does the right thing and price it under 80 grand. Well, cheers to that, man. I mean, look. Look, man, you and me both. They need to do the right thing with that car, and I keep hearing rumors to the contrary. Now, you know how rumors are. I mean, they're like any other thing that you just want to believe. I mean, if you want to believe it, you'll make it real in your head until the facts shine light. But I think that from what I've heard two different things about that car. I've heard that the base GT500 was going to come in somewhere around 72 to 77, but I don't know that that's true. And the second issue that I run into is even if they come in at 72 to 77, you're going to have this obnoxious added tag from these dealerships. And to me, that's straight up robbery. It really is. But the problem is that it's not, and by statute, it's not, and there's going to be people that are going to pay it. So, yeah, get ready for a bunch of $100,000, $70,000 cars, at least for a while. And then once the hype blows down a little bit, then maybe that added tag is going to come down a little bit. But you got to remember that the GT350s are still selling for over sticker in some cases. So, yeah. Kind of annoying to say the least. Oh, wait a minute. Mopar call out, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. Thank you very much. Speed Freak 93 is saying, always good to see the professor on a Friday night. Woo, like it. So could you explain what an MSD 7AL box does? I see them in a lot of drag cars and hot rods. Yeah, so MSD, or multiple spark discharge, at least up to 3,000 RPM, as they will claim. 6AL, 7AL, they're all basically the same thing. It's just an amplifier for spark. It will fire in rapid succession, up to 3 different sparks under 3,000 RPM to try to help burn all the unburnt fuel out of an engine in cars with large camshafts. Try to make them a bit more streetable so they don't, foul a plug sitting there idling or just cruising down the highway. But that's basically what it is. You've got a built-in rev limiter, or you'll have pills that are the same as, just basically programming a rev limiter into the 7AL or 6AL, whatever box you're working with. Again, basically just think of them as as an amplifier, so to speak. That's basically it. They don't do a whole lot. But what they do for some people is actually real beneficial. And then some of them are just crazy. I had a crane. What was it? A crane? Oh shit! This is going back a million years. Anyway, I had one that was so aggressive. I mean, it was like lighting off a freaking welder in there. It was pretty funny how much I had to change the tune on that car. That's on my old Mustang. That's going back at least 12 years ago. Bob Fish is saying lower tire pressure. Yeah, to a certain extent. That's a mistake a lot of guys make. Guys will drop pressure most of the time way too low. They're used to hearing what guys would run on bias ply tires. Radials, you want to run as much pressure as you can and still, well, any tire, this holds true, run as much pressure as you can and still hook up. On a radial, I never like going below 22. I know there's guys that will say 16, 19, whatever the case. If I don't have to, I'm not going to drop below 22. I think the lowest, though, that we ran on the Demon was 18 PSI. Lowest we ran was 18 PSI on the stock Nittos, and that was kind of under protest from me. But the car did fine, and it, did everything just fine with that pressure. So. Oh yeah, Natalie's saying I launched my Scat Pack at 27 and 2900. Bring them up slow. I never have over a quarter tank and 60 foot 150. It's actually 154 to 156. That is awesome. That is getting it going. I like it. Shit, I wish I was getting some of those 60 foots. Let's see. Oh, Sean, he's asking. Yeah, it's an automatic. Cleaver's saying, yo, B, what up? What up, man? Saying Charger Scat is almost at 38,000 miles. Anything I should look out for? Any news on these 6.4s going bad? Yeah, sorta. Some of the older 6.4s are running into problems with lifters, but nothing as far as I know from any of the later cars. Just haven't seen any real issues pop up. Now, I can tell you that if you're maintaining it properly, you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. Just keep your ears peeled, but I think you'll be okay with that lifter issue. Sergey's checking in, saying hi. What up? James is asking, why don't they bump up the power on the RT models? Well, the reason why they don't bump up the power on the RT models is because they're selling so many 392s right now. And they're selling so many RTs. The reality is that the RT makes about the same horsepower to the rear wheels as the trucks do. And the trucks are rated at 395, where the RT is rated at 370. I don't know, man. Go figure. But it kind of stands to reason, at least on the surface, that the RT is a little bit underrated. Now, I will say this. If there is any difference between the two, it's going to be in the intake manifold. The RT intake manifold, it does not have quite the same size runners as the truck manifold does. The truck basically has the same runner platform, or at least the runner size, as the 6.4. But the RT is not that far behind. And when I have worked on the 5.7 car intakes, you can still open them up pretty good. So that's one area where you could gain a little bit, is maybe if they did a redesign of that intake manifold just to let it breathe a little bit better. But they have no problems really breathing just fine with that stock intake manifold, especially with a little bit of work done to it. It still gets an 80 millimeter throttle body. There's a lot of things about the 5.7 that are actually functionally a little bit better than the 392. I'll tell you one other thing about the 5.7. With a set of headers, the 5.7 really does wake up, because the stock manifold is garbage on that 5.7. So the 5.7 is actually a lot of fun if you're into modding a car. If you like exhaust work and intake work and stuff like that, the 5.7 is actually pretty cool because it responds favorably to those types of mods. Not because there's anything inherently awesome about the engine in terms of mods, or it likes mods or whatever. It's just that it comes pretty well detuned from the factory. That's another way to look at it as well. Oh, now they say, oh, he's running 305, 45, 17s. ET Street R is my favorite. Sergio's asking, have you seen how many of the engines, the GT350Rs, are blowing up and cracking the block? It's all over the internet. It's a weak engine. Look, man, that was only a matter of time. Guys have been running that engine really hard for a while, and it's just one of these things where you just go, damn it. Because I wanted that engine to be bomb-proof. I wanted that engine to be, a 2013 Coyote engine bomb-proof, and I don't know if it's because of poor maintenance or guys just going out whaling the piss out of them, but they're possibly proven to not be that durable. And I don't know, how does Crow taste, Ford boy? Let's see. LS Swap Everything, did you have a Fox body? Technically speaking, I still do have a Fox body. But yes, I've had, over the years, I have had, let's see, I had an 88 Coupe, I've had my 93 SSP, and I had my 89 GT. And I had, those are the Fox bodies that I've owned. And then my 94 Cobra with the 427 and T trim, and then my 96 GTS. So yeah, I've owned a few Mustangs. But love Fox bodies. Let's see. Mopar callouts, hollering out at Alex. Shawnee saying, M&H Race Master drag radials, 275 5017s. It's a good tire. I'm running 17 to 20 pounds. What do you think? I would bump that up a little bit. I would bump that up to 22, honestly. I just have not had, now keep in mind you're on a 17, so there's a little bit of a difference there, but even then, that may lend you to want to run a little bit more pressure even still, because you are going to have so much wrinkle with that sidewall at the lower pressure. So you want to start out high and then work your way down. Really, I run 24 in this thing, and that's low for me. So when I'm at the drag strip, I'm 24 cold. If that gives you any idea, I just literally set them to 24 and hit the drag strip. I don't even pay attention to what they are once I get there. I'll check them every once in a while to make sure I don't have a leak. But once you set them, obviously it's going to be track dependent. I'll try to cheat the pressure up a little bit to see if I can drag a little bit more mile an hour out of it on the big end. But yeah, I never go that low. In fact, I've had more problems with tire pressure being that low, with the car being a bit unstable at the big end of the track than anything else. Bob Fish saying wouldn't run much under 20 without bead locks. Good advice. Cranman saying, hey BMX, hey Cranman, saying what's your thoughts on nitrous on the 6.4? Was thinking of a Hundo shot. Any internal work that should be done, or would a 50 to 75 shot be better? Been on the fence about nitrous. Well, don't consider nitrous to be a cheap power adder. Those days are gone, over with, finito. They don't exist anymore. If you're going to go nitrous, you're going to have to go, you're going to have to go with a standalone system. You're going to want to obviously go wet shot. You're going to want a progressive system. Nitrous Works makes a fantastic kit. Runs off of injector duty cycle. That is probably the best way to go. 100 shot, be just fine, I guess, under those conditions. I mean, you got to figure that you're going to be running more of a shot with a supercharger, right? I mean, you're going to be making more than 100 wheel horsepower with a supercharger. So 100 shot will probably be safe. 75 for sure is going to be safe. But I wouldn't really try to go much above that. And it has really nothing to do with the internals of the engine as much as it does the flow capabilities of that intake manifold. And this is where the Mopar life kind of starts to suck, because as good as that intake manifold is about making mid-range power, it's designed to flow dry air. And when you start adding nitrous, fuel, and everything else to the equation, you can possibly get some distribution issues going on with that manifold to where some cylinders are getting hit harder than others. And again, that's a bit of a problem. You start running into those types of distribution concerns. So the 6.4 is pretty cool in the fact that you've got some plenum area, because technically it is plenum, behind the throttle body leading into the actual plenum, what you would consider the actual plenum of that intake manifold. Helps with dispersion if you're going to run nitrous. But the reality is I would kind of chill a little bit with the nitrous, keep it around 75, which should be good. Run a quality controller and don't hit it hard out of the hole. More or less rely on the nitrous on the bigger end of the track, just have some fun with it. But you're running a heavy car, and when you tag it with that much dope down low, you can potentially start to hurt some driveline components. Oh yeah, he did drive. Yeah, 100 shit. Yeah, that's funny. Shawnee caught that. I didn't. Now it's saying tune the fast man, catless, and 100 tune at the track. Perfect. Matt Parker saying the concern with the 5.7 in the bottom end. Actually, the 5.7 stout. Well, he's talking about with boost. Now you don't have to worry about that with the 5.7. The 5.7 in some respects is more durable than the 6.4, so don't worry about that. Let's see, Shawnee's hanging out with Natalie. Sergi Google saying, what is the strongest car engine block or blocks ever made? Any clue? Well, depends on what you're going to call strength. 2JZ is gonna rank real high up there. I would say next in line to that would be, just in terms of being able to handle boost or a lot of power, would be LS is really good at it, provided you don't try to get too aggressive or too kinky with them. But really aside from that, all of them are going to start to have their own list of problems. The Hemi platform has been good. The Gen 2 Hemi was fantastic. And of course, Gen 3, these things, your block and the internals, for the most part, are not your limiting factor. So any of the modern blocks are really good. There are some 4-cylinders that are out there that I don't know the technical names for, but a couple of Honda engines that you can throw pretty much unlimited boost at. But you can't forget about the Cummins either. So, a lot of different ways you can take that conversation. Let's see, Daycab is asking, do most 5.7 mods benefit the 6.1s as well? The 6.1 SRTs are getting very affordable. No, they don't. The 6.1 had fantastic manifolds from the factory where the 5.7 didn't. And, but that being said, the 6.1 is going to act a lot like an old school, just regular V8, non-VVT, non-MDS, and variable intake manifold. You're just not going to have those concerns with the 6.1. So you can get away with a little bit more of an aggressive camshaft because of the intake design. Wholeheartedly recommend extrude honing that intake, and exhaust and a cam and throttle body, all of that is going to pick up just like any other normal V8 would, and it would do well either way that you decide to take it. Shawnee is saying the Mexican block 351. Yep, that's a good one. The Boss block was unbelievably strong, so you got that to consider. Any of the higher nickel blocks were good. Here's a great one for you. What about the Oldsmobile diesel block? Guys were taking those things, and that is a high nickel block. They were taking those and converting them to gas and making a boatload of power with those things. Gray Man saying 100 shots. Sorry, no, it's all good, man. Let's see. Oh, now they're saying I only have an 8th mile, but went to Rockingham at the MSHS event and ran 11:25 at 1:21. The DA was plus 13:20. That's really good. That is screaming, as a matter of fact. Sean E is saying 96 GTS, the redheaded stepchild of Mustangs. Man, that's one I'd like to actually have back. Sergio's asking, why did I sell the 94 Cobra? Because I wanted a Viper and I was sick of spending money on that car. Mopar call out, very impressive. Yes, it is. It's got a very impressive car. Cleaver Enterprise saying, hey Natalie, have you dynoed after your mods? Let's see. Y'all are chatting. Let me see. Scroll down here real quick. What are the pros and cons have you, Johnny Bishop, what pros, cons made you go with the Challenger Hellcat over the Charger Hellcat? Well, the Challenger is lighter, and so I wanted, a lighter car. I also wanted a two-door as opposed to a four-door. But that's it. In fact, there are some pros to the Charger over the Challenger. Namely, it's a more rigid platform. The Charger is exactly an E-Class, like a W211 E-Class Mercedes with different skin. So it's solid. It's very smooth. It's quieter. There's a little bit more refinement to it. But I wanted a two-door, and I like the looks of the Challenger, so I went with the Challenger. Natalie's saying in the 8th, personal best 718 at 97. That is screaming. Sergio's saying GT500 will be probably meant failing blocks and cracks, bag and weak casting. Possibly. Matt Parker's giving up thumbs up. Let's see. Matt saying strong blocks. Old Bill used to season their blocks outside before they finished the machining to harden them. Don't know how that would work. I do know that they, Oldsmobile had some pretty cool stuff. That 455 was nasty, but it was thin. It was prone to cracking. Ace is asking, what do you think about the 15-inch rear conversion for Charger and Hellcat? I think it's fine. I think that, is it worth the price, though? That's the other thing you got to look at, and I don't think it is. I mean, the amount of money you're going to spend on the rear conversion, it depends on what all you got done to the car, but unless it is making a bunch of power, the 15-inch rear really isn't going to help you too much. And when I say a bunch of power, man, I mean you need to be making about 850 to the rear wheels before on a dyno jet, and about probably at least 800 to the rear wheels on a Mustang dyno before that conversion's really going to start to show any improvement. And obviously, anything above that, it's going to be even more of an improvement. But too many mid 9-second cars rolling around on 17-inch, 17 by 9s with a set of 305 45 17s on the back of them. That car is not going to be any quicker with a 15-inch conversion. And again, it depends on what all you're throwing at it. The other time a 15-inch conversion might help is if you've got an NA car and you're throwing a lot of gear at it, and you're actually trying to cheat that gear ratio up a little bit with the taller tire on a 15-inch wheel. So I mean, you can kind of go that route with it, but it just makes it, I don't know, it almost makes it a bit, well, it's a bit of a waste, really. But, you say that, depends on how often you're going to the drag strip, how many tires you're burning through, too, because typically the 15s are a little bit cheaper. Sergio's saying, great answer, thank you very much. Bob Fish is saying, just received his performance development DIRS dip race. How do you feel about them? I did not like the previous model. Felt like it was too solid with no play. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that a little bit. I don't know that it's hurting or helping, if I'm being completely honest. But the new setup does look superior to the old setup. In terms of how much is it going to help, I honestly, man, I I don't know. It depends. There's a lot more that it's going to depend on, or that performance is going to depend on. Namely, how much power are you making? Are you running a 262 or are you running a 309? You know, what does the casting look like for that particular case? Yeah, I've seen the diffs fail in different ways, and that's the other thing. I've seen them fail with the. I've seen them fail at the snout. Basically, right if this is the snout and it's going into the pumpkin on this side, right where you would consider the pivot point to be, where the pinion is trying to climb the ring gear. I've seen it snap at that snout. I've seen them snap at the ear. So I'm not really sure what's causing that, aside from just some real funky geometry going on in there. But anything back there is going to help it to just stabilize the diff. That's the main thing that you're looking to do. I like the new design a little bit better in that it does allow it some movement. But I think that we're a little bit, I think that there's at least one or two generations of diff brakes before they really nail it down. And, you know, guys have been talking about, you know, running polyurethane bushings back there for a while, but I don't know of anybody that's actually doing that. I think it's going to take something along those lines and something that's DIY accessible to make that work before any of the diff improvers are going to make any difference. There also might be a better way to go about just the case in general. If somebody made an aftermarket case or, you know, whatever in those respects to really ramp up the durability. But, you know, so far as I can tell, that, believe it or not, the breakage is pretty rare. You see cars with big horsepower get out there and break stuff, and it seems like it's more the norm than anything else. But in reality, if you are within sane power levels, say, I don't know, you know, 800, and again, we'll go back to the 850 number on a dyno jet, 800 on a Mustang dyno and lower, you're probably not going to have any issues with the car as long as you're foot braking it. I think a lot of the issues with the diffs come from guys running it off the trans brake, and it's just shocking the drivetrain and shocking that diff. So, I don't know. That's kind of a long way to get around that question, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Ace is saying, thank you, sir. He's got a stock Hellcat. Yeah, don't even go near a 15-inch conversion for your car. Don't think you're going to see anything out of it. Let's see. Chavin, hope I'm saying that right. Saying, big question, would you drive a 5.7 or 6.4 new gen Charger in the city as a daily car? Absolutely, I would. I'd daily the hell out of either one of those, especially at 5.7. Shouldn't have any issues with that. Sergey's asking, do you think Trackhawk is a great package overall? Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of people that will say it's the best package of all the Hellcat variants. Cleaver saying, what millimeter is the Fastman that I would recommend? I would go with the 84 if you got NA, and I think it's what, 94? Shit. Anyway, they make one for the Hellcat. I think they only make one for the Hellcat. But yeah, get the 84. That's the only one that you'll need. Started saying something about Diamond G. DSRT. Haha, D, what's good, bro? I like it. What up, D? Shawnee is hanging out with Cleaver, saying LS is hanging out with Sergi. Go74 saying, someone slashed my tires on my Challenger. Drink and pissed. I guess he's saying on him. What would you do? I don't know. Suggest not putting me in that position. But it wouldn't be pretty. But you got to get new tires. Nitto, try 5Rs. Shawnee, Fastman will know what to do with the throttle body you give him based on your application. I've been to his machine shop. Hey, cool. Yeah, no, that, yeah, that's the way I would go. And like I say, Fast Man ain't paying me a damn dime, isn't giving me anything to promote his product. He just makes a damn good product, and for guys that do a good job, I don't mind throwing a little shine their way, and his stuff is top notch. See, Cleaver's hanging out with Shawnee. Let's see. Saying he's got the Charger 392, got a leg maker, true CAI that's waiting for the Fast Man and a tune, but they got the ball savings cushion to press play on it. I like it. LS swap everything. At Go 74. Well, police report, maybe install security cameras and unfortunately open up your wallet. Yep. Normal Man saying, Hobby Mason, thanks for this Q&A. Been learning a lot. What is the size of the ring and pinion on the 215 plus Challengers? It is the ring itself is a 9 1/4, if memory serves me correct. Can't remember the size of the pinion, but the ring I want to say is a 9 and change. Could be off on that. That's for the ZF ring and pinion, by the way. The internals are actually really stout on those ZFs. And again, there are guys making a lot of power with the Hellcats, with 309s and with the 262s. The 262 is going to be a little bit more robust, or at least it'll be able to take power a little bit better, mainly because it's just a larger pinion gear. You have just more mass in there. And it's not going to be as apt to the pinion's not going to be as apt to try to, climb the ring gear as much, so to speak. So it's less pressure on that snout. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a 309. There's absolutely not. It's just, the way that it is. But I think that's what the size of the ring gear is. Oh, Go 74. Let's just get some race tires so that. Hey, Uncle Stinkford saying, hello, Mr. Mason. Just want to let you know that I put the BMR trailing arms on the Scat Pack and it has so far killed my wheel hop problem. Very cool, man. I was expecting it to dull it down a bit, but so far so good. I like it. Absolutely, man. Yeah, that, it definitely made a little bit of an improvement on mine and on the Demon. And again, the main thing with that is just to numb it a little bit. So, absolutely, man. Glad they're working out for you. Very cool. Let's see. Oh, Cleaver's asking, my bad, B, just got a 392. Is that 84 too big? No, that 84 is perfect. Go 74 saying, drunk, sorry. What kind of tires should I get? I would say, if it's mine, I'd throw a set of Nitto Tri-5Rs on it and call it good. If all they hit was your rears, if they hit the rears and the fronts, get the Nitto Tri-5s up front and get the Tri-5Rs for the rear. That's the way I would play that. Zephyr R&D say, what up, Professor Mason? Like it. Got the fist bump saying, what do you think of the 3.6 and Turbo 2 and a 2-door JL Rubicon? I would go Turbo 2 for that every single time. The 3.6 is a good engine in terms of just being fairly durable, but I would probably have to go with the Turbo just because packaging, it's a smaller vehicle, and it's a turbo, so you can cheat with a turbo. You can't really cheat with the 3.6 too much in terms of trying to drag a little more power out of it. Sergio's asking, would you have traded your car for a Trackhawk today or tomorrow? If you would, then why? No, I wouldn't. I'm not, Trackhawk really isn't my thing. But again, there are some that will argue undeniably that the Trackhawk is better. It's all-wheel drive. It makes great use of the power. It's got a stronger gearbox too. I don't know. Tough to say, but I don't know. Fast SUVs are cool, but I'll take this over that every day. Go 74, is there a way I can desmog a 454 C20? Yeah, absolutely. What year is that 454 C20? Because I don't know of any that would even be anything with a 454 that would even qualify or need to be, at least here in Texas, emissions checked. Oh, Zephyr's asking, have you seen the Dynatrack Dana 60 conversion for the Challenger? No, I've seen the 9-inch conversion, but I haven't seen the other one. Not yet, anyway. That stuff kind of clears my radar, mainly because of the cost. You know, there's a lot of money that would have to go into that, and I just, for my power level and where I'm going to be going with this car, I don't know that it would be of a true benefit. But it would be killer to have a Dana 60 in this thing. Something I need to look into. JL Rose, who would you recommend for a custom engine swap? I would have no idea on that one, man. That would be a tough. It depends on the car, depends on the swap, depends on a ton of stuff, man. Sergio's asking, what's your next car? Any ideas? Yeah, my next car I'm hoping is going to be a mid-70s or early 80s Dodge D100 or D150 short bed. That's what I'm looking for anyway, but coming up a little bit dry on that search. Ghost 74 saying they hit his passenger front and his passenger rear. Now, in that case, you just got to go with whatever you had on the car, brother. Oh, Shawnee is saying, okay, yeah, good point to make. Fastman throttle body before and after dyno on his 392 with 6 horsepower and torque. Highly recommend it. Probably even more on a Hellcat. I have seen the Hellcat, Fastman Hellcat throttle body actually pick up a considerable amount of torque. I can't remember the exact number. I think it might have been like 14 or 18 pound-feet of torque. Hell, memory's kind of going flat on me here, but somewhere in that range. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to pick up there, no doubt about it. Norman saying, oh, he's talking about his JL. He's got a 2.0 turbo in it, and saying it's got good pickup, gets 25 miles per gallon, amazing setup with the A8. I bet the thing runs really good. Oh, Ghost 74 is saying it's an 85 and the state has no emissions. Shit, just get up underneath there and hack that stuff out, man. You don't need it. Ghost 74 saying, I want to let this engine breathe. Yeah, I would too. Hell yeah. Yeah, you're outside of any of the sniffer tests that I know of. You might have to deal with a visual, but sniffer, I don't think anybody's going to put it on a sniffer. Uncle Stick for saying that he ran a C7 this weekend and hung with him pretty good. Very nice. I used to give C7s fits, man. You know, big 392 SRT Challenger giving him hell. See, car topics. Have you seen Real Ghost? No. Hang on just a second. Shawnee, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying, good night, B. Racing comes early tomorrow. Brother, I know I've lived that life. Absolutely, man. Go out there and give them hell, brother. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Dwayne's asking, hey, B, wondering what kind of 60-foot times I should be getting with my stock 6-speed 392 and Nitto Tri-5Rs. Fastest he's gotten is a 190. Man, you're going to be suffering a little bit with the 6-speed, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to knock down some 180s, maybe some mid-170s in the conditions that we've got. It'll be tough for you to get much better than that, but for sure 180s are going to be well within the realm of possibility with a little bit of practice. A little bit more practice will get you down to the 170s. But again, you got to remember you got a manual transmission, and Nothing is more a part of the suspension on a manual transmission than the tire itself. It's true of all cars, but on a manual, you really are leaning on the carcass of that tire to absorb some of the shock load, so that the power just gets to the ground and you get moving. Try 5Rs on the stock tires will help, but to really get the most out of the car, you're going to need to go to a 17-inch wheel and tire. And that's just the God's honest truth. And that's going to be, 305, 45, 17s. Air them to about, for a standard, I would say air them down to about 20, well, try 24 and see how it works. You should be able to launch it pretty hard on those tires. So, but without it, you're going to be kind of stuck in terms of 60 foot in that, high 170s range. Let's see. Kyle Powell is asking, he's at JL Rosen. If it's Mopar, A2 speed is awesome. Two members in my modern Mopar club are using them for a Hellcat upgrade and a Hellcat Demon Killer build. Yeah, I cannot get on board with the A2 speed thing. Sorry, guys. DSRT is asking, what do you think about the Hellcat supercharger spacers? I know a guy that's got them. I race them every weekend, and they kind of work a little bit. And I wouldn't say that they add horsepower. Take that off the table completely. Just, no, they don't add horsepower. But his supercharger is cooler after a pass. So it's also cooler after letting it sit for a little bit, regardless if the cooldown feature with his taser is on or not. So in that respect, I like them. I don't know if I $400 like them, but I don't know that they're worth that much. But they work. So on one hand, they do work. Again, though, I wouldn't quote any horsepower numbers. I wouldn't give them even a second thought for building power. I would just give them the credit for maintaining the power and maintaining consistency, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. Go 74 saying, hell yeah, bro. Jail Rose, Viper V10 into a 2015 Challenger. Any shop that comes to mind for that type of swap? Oh, man. Pike's Performance here in Houston, possibly. Man, not a whole lot. The good thing is that they were putting V10s into Challengers. So it would just be getting drag pack motor mounts. I'm sure there's a couple of other things, bell housing issues, what transmission you're going to run. Probably going to want to run a manual with that setup. Maybe not. Depends on which way you're going to go. But anyway, it'd be tough to say. I mean, Pikes might take on that type of a project, but it would be a project. It's not something you just, pop the hood or drop the cradle, throw everything back together and call it good. It's going to be a little bit more in depth than that. Zephyr R&D saying, interesting about the dry sump conversion on the Demon motor in the Speedcore 70 Charger. Why isn't it more people using dry sump on application outside of hardcore road race cars? Cost, complexity. There's a few reasons why you wouldn't go that route. Packaging is probably the biggest reason in these cars. So it's a good idea. It's great in principle, but in practice, it can be a bit daunting. It works great for the vet. That platform with the Grand Sports and with the Z06, they're pulling a lot of G's, a lot of lateral G's, and it's for them. It's not so much a question of oil starvation. It's really more that oil sloshing around in there and getting foamed up because it's getting whipped up by the crankshaft. So I prefer a dry sump, absolutely, but in these applications, there's just not enough benefit to making the conversion versus the cost and the complexity of the system. Shawnee's saying, oh, he's saying, Dwayne, you're not too far off my 305 Minnow, and he ran 189. So yeah, no, he's not far off at all. It's just a matter of, seat time and track prep and just whittling away a little bit at that 60 foot every single time. It just depends on how much you want to sacrifice your clutch, because that's the other part of the equation. Good times, I know, right? Oh, Uncle Stick for saying, yeah, the C7 was cammed headers and exhaust and a tune. My 392 is stock. Oh, very nice, man. Good run. Very good run. Zephyr R&D saying the Dodge drag pack with the Dana 60 and Viper swap. Hell yeah, that's what's up. That was a badass car. Sergio's asking, what is the best Corvette Z line? You think it made I should get Corvette? Don't know where that's going, but yeah, if you want a Z06, get either the very latest one or a C5. Depends on what you're going to do with it. DESRT saying, makes plenty of sense, brother. Thanks. I like it. And then Dwayne Weaver saying, Shaney, what are your quarter mile times? I got 1270 with that 190 60 foot. Sergio's asking, what has more brutal power? What is more brutal, I guess is what you're saying, and more power between Viper and SRT? Actually, the Viper is a very soft engine to drive. I know a lot of people will argue that, but it's the funny thing about the Viper is it's 650 horsepower, but it's 8.2 liters. It's very tip-in torque friendly. And it's a fun car to drive with the tip-in torque, but it doesn't have the down-low grunt that, and it can't, that any of the positive displacement supercharged cars are going to have. It just isn't there, and it's a strong performer in the mid-range. It pulls well to the upper mid-range, but yeah, these things are just monsters from the second you really tip in hard on the throttle. And I don't know, truth be told, the difference in weight between the Viper and the Hellcat masks that difference quite a bit. But in general, I will say that the Hellcat is significantly more violent on the launch than the Viper is. It's just the way that it is. And I know when I had mine were all Gen 2 Vipers, all of them GTSs. And I mean, I had a ball with those cars, loved them. But I mean, they're archaic by today's standards, and there's a reason why the value on those cars dropped so much and has remained fairly low over the years, is that everything that's come out since then has been not only significantly faster just from stock to stock point of view, but significantly safer at the same time, and arguably better looking. So Gen 2 GTSs, they're not for the faint of heart, man. Anyway, I don't know why I'm kind of diverging off on the Viper thing, but yeah, I don't know. Moving along. Zephyr R&D, any thoughts in the ProCharge 426 stroker scat pack that Pikes did? Well, I got a lot of thoughts on it, considering I'm the guy that designed the camshaft for that thing. I think it's fantastic, personally. No, it's a great base. It's a very strong short block, and there is a ton of room for him to grow with that engine. Along with an upgraded supercharger, a switch to E85. He's already got the fuel system. That camshaft, when I put that camshaft together, I put it together to be able to handle the fuel mass evacuation on the exhaust side for E85 and more boost. So he's got quite a bit of potential left in that car. It just depends on, obviously when he can get around to, I guess, harvesting some of that potential out of the car. Costs money. So yeah, I would say that it's there waiting for him. Whenever he's ready, the car is ready for him. Obviously, the transmission would be a bit of a sticking point for me, but I believe somebody's out there making an HP90 swap kit that's available. At least that's what I hear. I haven't done any real research into that, but if that's the case, then that's a no-brainer. Do an HP90 swap and then throw some tires on that thing and let her eat, let her get freaky. But no, it's a very stout setup, to say the least. Junior asked a really good question. I'm going to spend a little time on this. So Junior Rika Umaki, I hope I'm saying that right, asked, hi, are there disadvantages in modding the Demon? You're damn right there's some disadvantages to it. First things first, my man, you got to consider this. It's a Demon, and throwing a bunch of parts at a Demon might sound a little sexy on the front end, but it's not when you consider the fact that you can make this Hellcat sitting right behind me walk all over a Demon for a lot less money, and you're not tearing up a Demon, which will wreck its resale value. The second thing is that the Demon itself, the supercharger that's on the Demon, is not as efficient as the supercharger that's on the Hellcat. It's the same manufacturer, but the differences between the two superchargers is that the Hellcat and the Red Eye it's a different rotor pack. Less efficient rotor pack at that, at least in what I've seen and in my experience with those cars. And because of that, you run into heat issues. The thing just gets a lot hotter a lot quicker. So you run into that problem. Now, there's plenty of guys that are out there making a lot of power with modded Demons, and you know what? More power to them. But in my opinion, I would rather put that money into a Hellcat, build a Hellcat that's, they make a bazillion of them every year. You're not really affecting a Demon, which is actually, in my opinion, a rather special car. And you are, if you just want to throw money at a car and just want to go fast with a Mopar, Hellcat is really the best and most efficient way to get to where you want to be. If like a mid 9-second time slip is what you're going for. Again, you can still do that with a Demon, but if you really want to do it right and you've got the coin to do it, then go get you a Red Eye. It's everything that is the Demon except some gadgets and gizmos that there's plenty of guys running deep into the nines that don't even bother with some of the crap that's in a Demon. The car never came with it to begin with. So, the Demon is cool. Guys, don't get me wrong, and I know I might catch a little shit for this, but the Demon is great, but the Demon is a marketing gimmick in a lot of ways. It's a very special car. It does a lot of really cool things as far as technology goes. It is incredibly difficult to mess with the Demon on a drag strip if you've got a stock car of any price, basically, south of $300,000, $400,000. But all that being said, there's a lot of marketing and gadgets and gizmos and gimmickry going on with that car, when in reality, a freaking Red Eye will do everything just as well. You don't have to pay the Demon tax, so to speak, with that car, even though it's expensive, and you get everything that comes on a Demon in terms of superchargers and everything else to make power. And then if you want to take it a step farther, then you got the Hellcat, which has already been proven to be a mid to low 9-second car. If you really throw the kitchen sink at them, why tear up a perfectly good Demon when there are other platforms out there that are available from Mopar that would be better suited to your goals. Sergio's saying, so you're saying Viper V10 is not a man's car? Well, it doesn't matter what kind of genitalia you have. I know quite a few chicks that have got crazy skill sets behind the wheel. So I got a couple of sisters, by the way, that'll outdrive most guys on an autocross course. So watch out. But no, it's just, the modern Viper is, was, I should say, more to that. But the modern Viper is just, it's got a lot of nannies. There's a lot of, there's just a lot more modern safety features that are going on with that car to keep you from getting it wrapped around insert, vertical cylindrical, apparatus here. A lot of guys that got Vipers had no business buying them. When I was driving Vipers, I was doing open track events, I was doing autocross with them, drag racing, and a lot of really stupid things on the street with those cars. But I had a background in autocross and open track leading up to that. The Viper, the Gen 2 GTS, is actually a spooky car to drive, especially if you're not used to a car that will understeer the way that some of those cars will drive, and the Gen 1 would oversteer. So I'm telling you right now, they're just spooky cars all the way around. They named them appropriately. Let's see, Xcash is asking, is the wide body worth it or is it just for looks? No, it handles better. You get a wider tire from the factory, and you got more traction just from the stock tires. And if you decide to put a set of welds on the back of them, you can put an 11-inch wheel back there easily. So no, it's not just for looks. The looks are a secondary benefit, but they do tend to grip better, and they do tend to accelerate a little bit easier on street tires. Cleaver's saying, good job on that 426. That shit is crazy. Yeah, well, you ain't seen shit yet. Wait till he throws a little bit more at it, and that thing actually starts acting like it was designed to. It's going to flip your lid, trust me. That thing is going to be a monster. Again, the cam in that car is as aggressive as I could possibly make it, but still be streetable enough to act like a street car type cam. There is not 1 ounce of duration, not anything about that cam that I could possibly do different for that engine. I will say that. And that cam is number 4 in just when I was doing the math on the cam, that was the 4th cam that I came up with for the car. And after just doing all the math on that cam, it was actually kind of nerve-wracking because I knew the guy was going to be running on 93 octane at first, which presents a ton of challenges to somebody putting a cam together because I've got to balance, well, most of it has to do with the exhaust side, but mainly it's, how much dynamic compression am I going to sacrifice for total exhaust flow? And how much mass is this cam really going to have to move at higher RPMs, not just now, but in the future, and on not only on 93 octane, so it runs good on 93 octane, it's tunable and doesn't act like an asshole, but on E85, how much duration is going to be enough to be able to evacuate the cylinders properly, and again, not sacrifice too much dynamic compression. Yeah, took me a minute to put that one together. Lots of challenges putting that camshaft together. Zephyr is asking, would it be worth it or even possible to swap an HP90 in a 6.4? I need to look this up because I keep hearing about somebody having an HP90 swap available. And I don't know if it has more to do with, HP90 and the converter or what the deal is. For a while I was told you couldn't swap the two out, but was never given a straight answer as to why that was. To me, it's you swap them out. The 90's a little bit longer. You get a different drive shaft, and all's well that is well, right? But and you just get a Hellcat drive shaft at that point, right? I mean, it would make sense because it's a Hellcat transmission, and the car doesn't change. So there's that. The fuck was that? But realistically, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I should say I don't know. And realistically, it seems like it would be a very feasible thing to do, to swap out the 70 for a 90. Now, in terms of cost, hell yeah, it's going to be expensive. But shit, for that kind of durability, man, that is worth it to me. Sergio's asking, what is the best Corvette in your opinion in the Z line? ZR1. Zephyr's asking, sorry, type the last question before you finished. All good. Oh, Uncle Steeper's asking, okay, something interesting. When I installed the trailing arms, I tried to torque to 83 pounds, ended up completely stretching one of the bottom bolts, got a new bolt, no problem. Bad bolt maybe? Might be. I want to say that 83 is, are you sure those are 83s though for the lowers? I could have sworn it was like 77 or 75. Not that 10 pound-feet of torque really makes a difference one way or another. I just can't remember. But yeah, it sounds like it'd be a bad bolt for sure, which happens from time to time. Zephyr R&D's asking, ever dip your toe in a turbo Hellcat conversion? No, haven't, but have heard of guys talking about that, and packaging becomes an issue with those cars, and I don't know if I would have the patience really to fool with it. But that being said, a set of rear-mounted turbos on one of these things would be nasty. But I haven't messed with one personally. Sergio saying, walk all over a demon? No way, absolutely. Texas Gas Pimp, what up? Hold on, man. What's happening, man? Got the high five, really? Uncle was super saying really stupid things on the street. I do really stupid things on the street sometimes. Sometimes, every once in a while. SRT Crazy, the Demon is a marketing gimmick. It's an icon, an engineering marvel in my book. Man, look, it kind of is, but it's borrowing a lot of technology that it depends on how you're looking at it. But damn, if it doesn't start to smell a little bit like a, is it a contrivance? What is it? Because to me, it does a lot of great things. And one thing I didn't mention about the Demon is just how stout the bottom end is on a Demon. I don't know if the Red Eye shares the same block, but the whole bottom end of that thing is basically a forged crank, which shouldn't come as a surprise. Basically a Hellcat crank, but with Molder rods and pistons. So at least in that respect, it's legit. But damn it. So the reason why I say marketing gimmickry and things like that, I'm talking about the software, not the car itself, but the software, the trans brake and everything else. The problem is that it wasn't over-engineered. So that's why you're seeing broken drive shafts, broken differentials. You're seeing some significant issues with those cars initially, just in terms of suspension problems and all these other goofy little things, the cool down feature not working properly. All of that, it can kind of bum you out a little bit if you just got them spending that kind of money. But the main thing for me is in the breakage. They do have an upgraded drive shaft, but it's marginally upgraded from the Hellcat. The other thing is that it does come with a 309 gear. However, if you go through that car and you look at the rear diff, it's an SRT, it's a Scat Pack rear end with a couple of upgrades, but not major upgrades. Doesn't have a different style bushing back there. It doesn't have upgraded trailing arms, camber arms, forward trailing arms. It doesn't have anything in the suspension that is upgraded from a normal Challenger. Add to that the fact that, yes, we have the rear seat delete, so that's weight savings. You can, take the front passenger seat out, okay? Well, anybody can do that. There are some cool things with the car, but you get the idea that the Demon was really put out there to get you ready for the Red Eye. Not that the Red Eye was derived from the Demon, but that the Demon existed in concert with the Red Eye. Here's the Demon. Again, we already had the wide body, but here's the Demon. Now here's the Red Eye, the mass-produced version of that car. My issue is this. Mopar could have done a hell of a lot better job as far as how they come up with what grade of fuel is in the car. You go into the tuning of those cars, and here's where things get weird with a Demon. They use the NOx sensors to determine what fuel quality is in the car. So if you go into the tune, into a stock Demon tune, and let's say you're running into false knock, you remove some of the NOx sensor sensitivity, there's a chance that if you're running 93 octane in the car, it won't pick up on the fact that it's got 93 octane in it. So it'll stay in 840 horse mode, even though it shouldn't, because it's not seeing the knock that it needs to see. That's a bizarre way to, I mean, there's better ways to do that. So anyway, I know that's kind of a pisser offer of a deal. And the other reason why I say that it's marketing, and you can't argue with this, Mopar stepped all over their junk. When they turned Leah Pritchett loose with that thing and let her make about 500 passes in that car in ultra negative DA on an unrealistically perfect track prep track prep to get a 965, and then paraded that number around as though the car would run mid-nines all the time. And it doesn't matter if you say, well, that is DA dependent and everything else. Back in the day, and the audience that they're pandering to, we're used to seeing corrected numbers. You know, the car ran, you know, you see Motor Week or read in, you know, Motor Trend magazine, the car ran a corrected, you know, 14.5. That means that the car, if it was summer, may have run a 15.0, but it was DA corrected to a 14.5. Or vice versa. Let's say it went 14.0 in the fall or winter, and it was DA corrected to a 14.5. The issue is that they didn't correct that number, and that's where the marketing really hit a lot of people, and it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Yeah, there's a lot of haters out there that want to talk about, well, you know, they advertise the car as being a 960 car. It's not a 960 car. The car only runs 10.0s or 10.1s. And now you have to explain density altitude to somebody. That's bad. If marketing would have just said, look, the car is capable of running sub 10-second quarter miles. That means that if you ever run a 980 out of the car, it's, wow, man, they didn't bullshit you. I'll take that a step farther. This Hellcat back here, it was said that on drag radials would run a 1085. It was capable of running a 1085. Okay, cool. On those drag radials that are on the car, I've run 1070s with this thing, and that's not in negative DA. The Hellcat has made it a habit of overperforming based on what was sent out into the world. So as far as capabilities, quarter mile times, 0 to 60 or whatever, the Hellcat overachieved with that. The Scat Pack cores have overachieved what they were, you know, what you would think that car would run, basically being that you put a sticky tire on the back of the thing, it'll run 11s. When they were doing their best to get like a 12.2 or a 12.4 out of them on regular street tires. And again, this is even on drag radials. The Hellcat was published as being a 1080 car at, I think, 125 or 124 miles an hour, 126, can't remember the exact number, but you see where I'm going with that. With the Hellcat, they screwed that all up, and that's, again, why I say, look, it was really a lot more marketing and a lot of gadgets and gizmos. Now, granted, on a car that is very well built, but in some cases under-engineered. That's why I say that. And again, I mean, this is coming after some real thought and a lot of time with that car. You got to remember that I had to spend, it's funny, I don't want to put it like I had to spend time with it. I had that car for 2.5 weeks straight, and I had to live with it for about 4 weeks. So just in terms of driving it, it was in, I mean, it was in the garage. I driving it back and forth to the shop, data logging it, taking it to the drag strip, getting data on the car, stock on 93, stock on 100 octane, stock on, or tuned on 93, tuned on 100 octane, tuned with pulleys, the whole, oh my God, it just, and it sounds like, I know, small, but the thing is that when you spend that much time with one of those cars, you just go, damn, you know, I see where the money's been spent. And I will say this, the Demon in stock form is the absolute happiest car that's ever been built. That thing is just in love with life. And if you ever drive one, it'll put a freaking fat idiot smile on your face, because it did that to me. I mean, I was like out to here. So there's that to consider. But if you look at it a little bit more deeply, and if you're around one long enough, yes, they are amazing vehicles, no question about it. But damn, if it doesn't get underneath my skin a little bit that, you know, they just didn't build the rear end up. They didn't upgrade some parts that they really should have upgraded on that car before they sent it off into the world, knowing damn good and well people were going to be, well, taking them to task on that 965 number. And by the way, Ray has the quickest Hellcat, has the quickest Demon that is on record that is completely bone stock at a 978. So the car is capable. It's just that it takes an obscenely low density altitude to make that work. Scat 426 saying, what up, B Mason? Mr. Mopar, what up? All the thumbs up. I love it. So are you saying, what car gives you a happy feeling that just drives by you? Do you have a car like that? He's saying his is the F12 Ferrari. Yes, the LFA Lexus. DSRT is asking, do you think that 426 will run stronger than Racer X's Hellcat? No, hell no, not a chance. Not the way it sits now. It's just not making the power now. Now, once it goes E85, upgraded supercharger, different transmission, it'll be up there in terms of power, but I'm not sure that it'll get there in terms of quarter mile, but if you're to do a half mile, I think you'd walk him pretty roundly on the big end. That thing is set up to make horsepower, man, and it will absolutely haul ass on the big end. I promise you that. So he's asking Corvette ZR1. Oh, talking about the year 2019, the latest one. Oh, Uncle C for saying instructions for the trailing arm say 83. Yeah, I couldn't remember. I know I did a video on it, and I think I even said how much on the video, but man, it's been a while since I've done that. Dwayne saying, would BMR trailing arms help my 60-foot times with stock power level? Maybe a little bit, not by much though. The main thing for those is just to quell any deflection, and those trailing arms are, well, they're light, so that's good, but they do have a tendency to flex a little bit, so it takes that flex out of them. Zephyr's asking, have you seen the Mercury dual head cam LS motors? Yes, I have. Mercury does some crazy shit with their engines. Let's see, XD is saying, is the 15 Plus RT with an auto faster than a 6.1 SRT with an auto? Well, it depends on who you ask and who's driving what car. It is a very close race. I'll just leave it at that. They are both in the same ballpark in terms of power to the rear wheels. The 6.1 will put down more torque, and it's going to need it because the 5.7 has the 8-speed to play with. And if it's my money getting spent, I'd still buy the 6.1, because 6.1 is just a badass looking engine. I don't care if it's slower. or even, I'd still go with a 6.1 just because it's an SRT car. But unfortunately, the breed does evolve, and the 5.7 with the 8-speed in the cars is actually pretty darn quick. Where am I? Oh, here we go. Normal Man saying, I have a wide body Scat and just put on some Tri-5Rs on it. What's your recommendations on air pressure for the track and for the street? Great question. For the drag strip, you're going to want to vary between 22 and 24. And for the street, no less than 32. And that is what is run in that car. Xcash is saying, the Demon made me buy a Challenger. I was going to get a 14 Super B, and also the 8-speed auto feels so much better than the 6-speed auto. Yeah, it does. And yeah, I mean, the Demon brought a lot of attention to Mopar. It did its job perfectly there, and it's doing its job every time you take one down the drag strip. Where the Hellcat is the benchmark standard for quarter-mile performance for a stock car, the Demon is the benchmark standard for a quarter-mile stock car at really any price point. The Hellcat, obviously significantly much more attainable for most guys, and it's a known 10-second car. The Demon is a known low 10 car, and if you can roll with a Demon, you got yourself a very quick car. So, you know, on one hand, you've got strong street cars at basically, you know, mid to high 10s with the Hellcat, and then you've got low 10s out of that Demon. Don't worry about 9s, because 9s are, it's asking a lot, but believe me when I tell you, they are both in their own way benchmark standards. And again, I freaking love Demons. That's the other thing. I'm not downplaying or bad talking any of the Demons. I'm just stating facts here. And but again, it is the absolute happiest, most fun-loving, just fun car to drive. Some of that has to do with the 309 rear gear, but a lot of that has to do with just the fact that the damn thing is just, again, if you've never driven, okay, let me give you, I'll break down the Demon driving experience for you, and it basically goes like this. Lots of torque, very torquey feeling, very light. It feels so much lighter to drive than it really is. And again, a lot of that has to do with the gear. But it's got a very soft or softly sprung suspension. So in the shock valve, the strut valving is very soft too, shock and strut. So when you put the thing in drag mode and drive it down the freeway, it's like driving a Cadillac or an old Chrysler Imperial. They just kind of float down the freeway. Counterintuitive to how the car looks. The car looks like it'd be, you know, all bulldoggy going down the road. It's absolutely nothing like that at all. It is super chill, super laid back, nice and floaty, and goes down the road so comfortable. It is the car that I would love to just take on a long road trip. That's kind of the effect that you get out of the thing. For you guys with Hellcats, it is stiffer, or your car in street mode is significantly stiffer than that car in sport mode. And that's its stiffest setting. So if you've got an SRT 392, either Challenger or Charger, the same obviously would apply to you. That your car in street is stiffer than that car in sport mode. Let's see. Oh, Uncle Steve for saying the trailing arms. He's saying at Dwayne saying the trailing arms will help get rid of wheel hop. You'll still spin the tires. You'll just not wheel hop brakes parts. That's very true. A lot of that has to do though with maintaining proper tire pressure and not trying to cheat them down very far. What happens is the tires will cup as opposed to being flat. They'll cup a little bit, and that's one of the things that will lead to wheel hop. And you know, the trailing arms and the diff brace and everything else, along with proper tire pressure, will help to mitigate, if not eliminate, a lot of that wheel hop. And he's exactly right. Wheel hop will absolutely shatter parts, so just keep that in the back of your mind with those. XD is asking, Is Mopar looking to catch up to Ford and Chevy anytime soon? I used to have a 392 and ended up with a Coyote due to a disappointment with the weight and aftermarket support for the 392. So let me tell you guys something that I have said a lot, and I'm bummed out to actually say this, but the best used Mopar dealership is located in Ford dealerships. The used car lot in most Ford dealerships is saturated with 392 cars for that exact reason. Very little aftermarket support for the 392, which is a real drag. The simple fact added to that Coyotes take so well to modification, and couple that with the fact that Ford seems very engaged and eager to help enthusiasts on the grassroots level extract more out of their Coyotes. Go look up a Ford Performance Parts catalog, and you will. It's basically like a, it's a mid-level education in how engines work and why different tuning methods are bad and different parts are not good for, not fit for, modification, where you can get bamboozled by the aftermarket, basically, is what I'm trying to get to. I could have gotten there a little bit sooner, right? But that's the reason why Ford is so coveted by the aftermarket. It's not just the aftermarket that loves Ford. Ford loves Ford, whereas Mopar don't love them so much, Mopar. And that is a problem for me. And it's something that needs to be addressed within Mopar, at least the culture of Mopar, before we can really start taking the car seriously, mainly because Mopar doesn't take it seriously. Look, I've been screaming and hollering that 6.4 needs a different intake manifold to be able to let the thing breathe and spin the thing to about 7,400 RPM. That's what those heads want to do. Realizing that the heads themselves will make, close to 700 horsepower calculated on their own. The heads are ridiculous. You just got to let the thing breathe, put the right cam in it, and the right intake manifold. Let it breathe with the right size throttle body, and you've got enough airflow to, make a shitload of power. But there is no manifold to do it. There is no drive from the aftermarket to bring to market anything that'll make that work for these cars, and so we're kind of stuck. And it's weird too. Number one, Mopar doesn't support it. Two, the aftermarket isn't seeing there being enough of a market there to support it either. With as popular as these cars are, you would think it wouldn't be like that, but it is. So I don't know. This kind of stuff takes time, and hopefully we'll start to see the tide turn a little bit, but I agree with that 100%. Speed Freak is asking, Brian, what is cat overtemp and what causes it? What happens when it occurs? Cat overtemp is a condition where, first of all, it's an inferred number. There's not anything, there's no pyrometer in there measuring the catalytic converter temperature. It is an inferred number based on several things, but what it is it's basically the computer is calculating about what the catalytic converter temperature is, and at 1800 degrees the computer will start to richen the fuel mixture to cool down the catalytic converters, because it thinks that the cats are going to be too hot and you could potentially damage the catalytic converters, either by melting the coating that's on the ceramic bricks, or whatever the case is. You're going to crack them, they're going to break, things are going to be bad. So the Mopar, or anybody with catalytic converters does this. When it infers a certain temperature, it just throws more fuel at it. So basically, if you've got a command air-fuel ratio of, say, 12.5 to 1 from the factory for normal wide-open throttle conditions, when it sees cat overtemp, or when it infers, I should say, cat overtemp, it'll go from, like, say, 12.5 down to 10.7 or even 10.5 in an effort to cool down the cats. It'll do that for an amount of time that it figures it's cooled them down enough, and then it will bring the fuel back out and come back to a normal fuel ratio for wide open throttle. I've got data logs showing it, and it's pretty significant. It's you can watch inferred cat, and it gets to a certain point, throws fuel at it, inferred cat goes down, and then it basically puts your air fuel back where it was before. But that's what it's there for, and that's what it does. Normal Man, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Saying thanks for your advice, man. I appreciate you very much, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. Symphonics saying, if Chevrolet does indeed put a twin turbo dual overhead cam in the new C8, what would they need to do with it to make it their own and make it unique to GM? I'll say this: if they are going to do something like that, it's got to. It'd be, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. It'd be cool if they could tie that into racing somehow. You know, SCCA, GT1 or GT2. There needs to be some tie-in to that type of racing. And create a brand for themselves with the new C8 and with the new engine platforms. That's really the best way to make it their own, is just to parade it as your own, and as something unique and cool. And I mean, let's face it, the new C8 is going to be sick to death. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm, you know, as a recovering Corvette guy, I can tell you that, you know, I'm tempted, but I know plenty of people that are going to have them, so I'll be able to get my hands on them here pretty soon. So, let me rephrase that. I'll be able to get my hands on one that I know of fairly early in their release. So, we shall see. But, you know, for the brand of Corvette, the cool thing is that if they do release a dual cam V8 in anything and it comes in the Vet, it will be the Corvette V8. And that alone is cool. That actually, for some people, will tug at the old heartstrings in a way, because it used to be, well, you know, I pulled the V8 out of my truck and I put in a Corvette 350. You know, it was always the Corvette engine. And it wasn't like it was an LT1, or it wasn't like it was a, you know, insert whatever designation here. It was just Corvette engine. So in that respect, that'll help make it its own in and of itself. Plus, Corvette is now its own brand, so I don't know. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. It's kind of rare for me to get real excited about new cars, but C8 I'm pretty excited about. Sergio's asking, why doesn't my car have stickers? Scratch my head on that one. It does have stickers. I got an inspection sticker right there on the windshield. See? And again, Normal Man, thank you very much, man. I do appreciate that. The contribution to the cause, bud. Thank you. Zephyr R&D saying, I think the 6.1 cars are amazing GT cars, much more comfortable than my Scat Pack was. Sort of an American AMG. Well, it is, especially when you consider the fact that the 6.1 cars, whether it's the, you know, whichever LX platform we're talking about, the 300, the Magnum, the Challenger, Charger, they are in a lot of ways, not that these aren't, but they are still very tied to that Mercedes platform. With the gate-trag rear gear ratios and the gate-trag rear end for that matter, the WA580 transmission, you know, it's still very much Mercedes-Benz at that time. So if you had driven a W211 Mercedes and then you drove a Charger with a 6.1, you wouldn't be that unfamiliar with how everything worked and came together. So, yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Let's see. X is saying, currently I'm running a podcast with a good friend of mine, mainly talking a lot about modern muscle and performance modifications. Would you be interested in joining an episode? Contact info. Absolutely. Hit me up on Instagram. Bob Fish, how do you set your car for drags as far as suspension and RPM launch in first gear? I am running, well, the drag pack setup, which is 17-inch rears, 18s front, 305, 45, 15s in the rear, and 18 by, what are they? Shit. Mickey Thompson 18-inch, 18 by 5s are the wheels up front with, I had to think about this, 28 by 6 tires. Mickey Thompson's up front. I launch it, man, it depends on the track. I try to launch this thing at about 1500, and sometimes I'll creep it up a little bit higher than that, but not by much. The car seems to like 1500, and I'm just going to keep on giving her what she likes. X is saying, only so much you can do with a 392 without spending a lot of money. That's one reason why I went with the 5.7. Man, guys, I've said this over and over and over again. For the enthusiasts, the 5.7 is a lot of fun. And I am still on record as saying that one of the cars I would love to get my hands on is a base model 5.7 Challenger. And I will give you the combination that I would put on it. First of all, Hellcat intake, Hellcat airbox, port the intake manifold, Fastman throttle body, I meant to say Hellcat filter and Hellcat airbox if I butchered that up. Tune, long tubes, probably a Corsa catback or a Stainless Works catback, because Stainless Works sounds good. I would go, or Magnaflow. Magnaflow sounds really good too. Magnaflow catback with a set of 370 gears. That would be my setup. And man, I tell you what, that thing would be a flippin' riot. And then I would sneak about 125 shot on it. Jaunty is asking, which do you prefer, Whipple or Kenny Bell for the Hellcat blower upgrade? I can't say Whipple. I don't have a lot of experience with the Kenny Bell, but I know multiple Mopars does, and I would have to go Kenny Bell just for the way the thing sounds. All things being equal, Whipple to Kenny Bell, I would still take the Kenny Bell because those things freaking scream. They wail at wide open throttle. There's nothing that sounds as good except for one of these blowers. These blowers sound sick too. But if you've got an upgraded supercharger, part of it is the noise, and those things sound so good when you're wide open in them. Sergio's asking, what is the max horsepower you got from Cam's change out you did before? I don't know what you meaning by that. It depends on the car, though. I mean, the max horsepower you're going to get out of anything is going to depend on the platform that you're working on. LS cars, you can get away with whatever you want with an LS because you've got the intake that's there to help you make power, the throttle body that's there to help you make power. You've got RPM capability now, so, you know, long tubes, cam profile can be crazy. My Z06, I picked up 65, 70 horsepower with that one. But shit, that's not uncommon. And, you know, for Hellcats, I don't really recommend going with a different cam until you really start making a lot of boost. And for naturally aspirated cars, I have a grind that makes a good amount of power on the big end. I think that cam, I've only done one of these grinds, and I want to say it picked up about 58 horsepower. However, I would never do it again because that car was a turd down low, and it didn't really wake up until 4,800 RPM. And yeah, it made great power on the other end of the spectrum, but it was too much of a sacrifice down low. It's what the guy wanted, and he didn't want to take my advice. He wanted to do his own thing, and I told him, okay, fine, I'll put a cam together that you're never going to like, but it'll make a lot of power. And sure enough, it delivered exactly on that. But That's just the way it goes sometimes, man. Oh, here we go. Uncle Steve saying I should also note that I have dynamics, so Hellcat wheels and tires stock. I got you. Hang on. Hang on. Hang on. And that's on those BMRs. Hang on a second. Sergio's asking, do you think Ford Performance is struggling from not being popular? No, that's just the opposite. They are extremely popular. And they are not struggling in the least. He's also asking, what do I think about Teslas? They're crazy. They're crazy to drive. Slash is saying, what up, B? What up, Slash? Uncle Secret saying, X, absolutely correct. Also, the reason why I got a 392 car, I don't want to mod my car. I want to keep it stock. And as far as power goes, just doing suspension and tires. Man, that has been my advice for the 392 for a while. Tune, port the intake, get you a throttle body. Trans-tune is really where all the magic really happens with that car. And just have fun with it, man. Just enjoy it, because there is nothing like the 392 cars when you're just driving the thing on the street. And I will continue to say this with this thing sitting right behind me. I have owned one of probably the best sorted 392 car, in my opinion, that would have been out there. And that thing was so much fun on the street. I used to go sniping after Hellcats with my 392. I love that car, the super snappy throttle response, the way they sound on startup when they're cold, or at any time for that matter. So much fun to drive, so responsive, and just did everything so well. And unfortunately for the 392, they keep getting overshadowed by the Hellcat, which is a bummer, because the 392 is incredibly stout, and it's carrying the torch for 90% of the grassroots racers out there. You know, the 392, I say 90%, a vast majority of guys own the 392s that are on the street raising hell and having fun with these cars. It just makes sense to say that, because the age demographic that is typically buying those cars, that's what I was doing when I was their age. I'm still doing it, and I'm old. So anyway, that'll give you an idea as far as, you know, my love for the 392, man. That car is badass, but it's badass from the factory. A little bit here, a little bit there will get you where you need to be. And if you want any more than that, financially, it starts to make less sense to have the 392, because the amount of money you're gonna have to put into it could have had a much more robust platform with the Hellcat, and would have been able to move even farther still at that point. But again, there's nothing wrong with spending money on your car as long as you're having fun and enjoying it. As Cash got the thumbs up. Bob Fish asking, how do you feel about 315s on the rear? Don't like it. Although there are some 305s that are wider than some 315s. In general, you're going to need a set of 10.5-inch wheels minimum to run those 315s to have any semblance of proper sidewall deflection. I like 10.5s with 305s. Some guys like to run 11s with 315s. If they've got a Charger, you can get away with it. Challenger, not so much, because the wheel well is slightly smaller on a Challenger, and getting that 11 with a 315 back there can be a bit of a challenge. It's gonna rub, guaranteed. So 10.5s with 305s typically is the way to go. X is asking, Instagram name. Also, have you heard of Alejandro Flores with Lund Tuning? I have. Good guy, he knows his shit, for sure. It should be B Mason 721 is my Instagram, I believe. But you know, it's kind of funny, you know, talking about modding the Mopars and things like that. It makes it real difficult to carry conversations with the Mopars in terms of what you can get out of them versus how good they are from the factory initially. You know, it's funny, some platforms lend themselves to modification better than others. That's the way it always is. And it doesn't have to be limited to Ford or Chevy or Mopar versus one or the other. Look at any of the Hondas, any of the import scene, any of the really any of the Euro cars for that matter. A lot of people forget that you can throw turbos on anything. There's a lot of really fast stuff out there that doesn't even have an American badge on it, much less is powered by an American designed engine. So, you know, when it comes to modifications, it's not that I start to check out a little bit. It's just that when I start to, when modifications come to the table, what's the limitation to the modification? What class are we talking about? Is this just, you know, open-ended? Because if that's the case, you know, I'm going to build a Mustang if I want to go 8s. But if I don't want to go 8s, I want to have something fun that's fast, I get a stock Hellcat. How much money are we going to spend? What's the budget? What's the goal for the car? All of that has to come into play, or else you're just kind of wandering around aimlessly. You got to pick the right platform to do what it is that you want to do with the car. SRT Crazy saying, if they are looking for excellent flowing exhaust for the RTs, the SLP loudmouth catbacks are awesome with the Hemis and sound great on my 6.1 in my Challenger. I like it with a thumbs up. You know, exhaust systems, I got to tell you, man, every sound is going to be subjective, and there's only a few that I actually have liked over the years, and I like something that performs well, and then the sound is secondary. But you know, I don't want to have my eyeballs rattled every time I drive the thing. I'd like to be able to think about stuff. But yeah, again, exhaust is completely subjective. I don't think that there's one that's bad out there. I will tell you ones that I will avoid unless you've got an H-pipe, which is anything with a chambered muffler. But anything with a straight through muffler is typically going to sound pretty good. Just be careful for that resonation type thing. That resonance will drive you nuts after a while. And Uncle Seaver saying, well said, Mason. Like I said, I do stupid things on the street sometimes. Just love how versatile my car is. I also love that when I need crazy power, it's there all the time. Absolutely, man. It's a lot of fun. And again, that's what this is all about, is having fun. And you know, part of having fun is not having to worry about it. And for me, these cars, man, you do it right. Excuse me. Follow the recipe, so to speak, and you'll have a car that'll last you a long, long time. That'll be putting smiles on your face for just as long as you've got it. Oh, X is saying, I'm going to be buying a 1970 Le Mans soon from a friend. I don't know what I should do with it. Should I fix it up and use it as a down payment for a Hellcat? Or should I do a nice weekend cruiser? Man, that is entirely up to you, brother. You know, if I had my hands on a Le Mans, let me look at something real quick. Is it a drop top or is it a hard top? If it's a drop top, I keep that sumbitch, and I would just rock that sucker back and forth to Sonic all day long. I just don't know how much you can get for it. The market is really soft on Le Mans right now, and so, you know, it's just not it's not a car that people just go clamoring after. So if you're thinking about buying it, put something together for yourself that is going to be basically, you know, like what you were saying, you know, a fun cruiser, and just go from there. Unless you can build it and flip it, if it's in great shape, it just needs a little bit of engine work, a little mechanical, but the exterior looks good, the interior looks good. That's the kind of car that you want to get, that you can actually get, fix up, put together, clean it up, and flip it and turn a profit and use that money maybe to help you get into a Hellcat. But again, it's a tough game to get into, especially when you start getting into some of the cars that are a little bit less known and a little bit less desirable, have a smaller circle of followers. It just makes it kind of tough. But a lot of those smaller circles will help you. You know, if you've got something nice, they're going to want it. So sometimes it's easier to sell cars like that. You just have to be connected in the right way. Let's see. Serge is asking, do you think Viper, let's see, gave up too powerful, over-engineered, but SRT, come on, man, help me out here. Over-engineered, but SRT is still going. I still don't get why they gave up on it. Oh, they gave up on it because they weren't selling any of the things. Look, the Viper, they would make 1 million Vipers a year if they sold 1 million Vipers a year. They didn't. And in fact, in the conversations that I've had with some of the marketing higher ups at Mopar was, you know, look, it's the same for the Magnum. It's the same for anything. If people bought them, they would still make them and improve upon them. But the reality is that it's not like that. And Viper got its ass kicked by the brand of Corvette almost from day one. So they are looking to reintroduce it. They are looking to do some things later down the line. But when I say reintroduce it, not necessarily reintroduce the Viper name, just reintroduce a halo type car that could compete with Corvette in that arena. And again, you've got to be able to appeal to every demographic and be endeared by every demographic that's out there: male, female, old guys, young guys, everybody in between, just like Corvette does. You know, moms, you know, aunts need to be able to, you know, grandma needs to be able to get in this thing and drive it. That's the type of product you have to put out to be able to compete with Corvette. Without that, you're done. You're not going to make it. And that's why Corvette does so well. Let's see, X is asking, any other parts for the 392 that can be better built? Said he had a Pro Charger for the 392 and the tranny seemed to go first, then the rods. What do you think? The tranny for sure is going to be a weak link. But if you're snapping rods, then chances are you had a little bit too much timing in that thing. But, you know, not pointing the fingers at anything, it's just, you know, something that I've noticed. I will say that you don't want to get too crazy with the 392 cars. That setup is very good as a naturally aspirated car. You know, the rods, yeah, pistons, yeah, ring land a little bit lower would help, but in reality, you know, the car is just really heavy, and you're asking a lot of the transmission. And quite honestly, you're asking a lot of the engine. If you're going to go into boosting that thing, you're asking a lot of an 11-to-1 engine that, you know, yeah, I know the Mustang's got a high compression ratio too, but you know, the fact is that you're trying to get something to make a bunch of power with boost that was never designed for boost. So, you know, it's easy to overtime them. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why a lot of them blew up early on, was people just didn't understand. Tuners didn't grasp the fact that you don't tune a Hemi the same way you tune an LS or a Mustang, you know, Coyote platform. It doesn't work like that. So you can get away with much less with a Hemi than you can with any other engine platform that's out there. I mean, it's always a good idea to go fully built if you can afford it, but if you can afford to go fully built on a 392, then you can take that money, take your 392, trade it in on a Hellcat, and have something that's already built for boost that's going to run its ass off no matter what you do to the car. So, catch my drift there? Let's see. Success says hardtop with the vinyl. Oh, cool. His wife got into a wreck and the engine is not running. Lone Wolf Custom saying hi, B. What's up, Lone Wolf? then in that case, I mean, you got a lot of, I should say, upside to be able to try to flip that thing and make some money. As long as the exterior is good, as long as the interior is good. Interior even more important than the exterior. As long as you're in good shape with the aesthetics, the rest of it can be fixed, machine shop, pull, insert, and you're done. Uncle Secret said, I have to say the 392 is an NA engine, and that is what it was made for. Leave it alone. Man, look, I'm on record saying I think the 392 is actually the most significant Hemi to be made, mainly because it brought big block Hemi power to the masses. And you got to remember, one thing too, guys, a lot of people forget, the Hellcat engine was basically developed around the 6.4. It wasn't until they put the 5.7 crank into the 6.4 and made it a 6.2 that the Hellcat engine was, came to life, so to speak. But it was initially the test bed was a 6.4 in terms of making everything work in a lab at FCA. J Code is saying, what up, B? What up, Jay? Saying he's learning a lot from my channel. Well, thank you very much. Saying he's got a 14 Ram Express tuner, cold air, 2.4 drop to 6-speed. What gears would you go with? Stock 355s and truck now? Go with a set of 392s for sure. Bob Fish is saying, any word on the new CUDA? Almost said the new tuna. No news on that. They are still looking at what they're going to do with the LX platform. Nothing that I know of has been released, but my understanding is that everything for the CUDA is still on paper. They're going to revise the LX platform first, and then whatever comes after that will be the CUDA. And that will probably be the new Halo car. It will be the new demon, so to speak, for Dodge. Sergio saying, how to tune a Hemi? Answer, very carefully. X is saying, interior is almost perfect. Everything works, just no radio and no AC. That's easy to fix. And then X is saying, one last question. Have a time, full exhaust instead of intake on the Coyote. I get that they're really hot air intakes, but does that matter when roll racing? Nope, doesn't. Tune, by the way, is custom for the exhaust intake. Yeah, no, not when you're rolling, man. Once you get rolling, all those issues go away. You got a lot of air coming through the grill. You've got that snorkel that's pumping air right on top of that filter. So no, in that respect, you're in good shape. Roll racing, you're not going to have any problems with that whatsoever, unless you're coming like right out of or right from idle and you just haven't cooled everything down yet. But no, for the most part, you're in good shape. And with that, guys, I am going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me this evening. I will have to catch up with you guys sometime next week. I'm going to be out of town getting some work stuff taken care of. But that is a wrap on this one. Thank you all very much. We'll catch you